verification of eligibility for Child Nutrition Program benefits webinar. I am Angela Dittmer, the consultant for North Central Kansas. Myself and Holly Steinlogge will be helping you through the webinar today. As we go through the webinar, we will have time at the end for questions, but if you need immediate assistance, please use the chat box and we will help you as we can. So welcome. I'm glad you're all here on our fabulous Wednesday webinar to learn more about verification. So, I had one that says the sound is going in and out. They hear nothing. Okay. Well, it seems like the majority can hear me, so I'm going to go ahead and get rolling, and hopefully you guys can figure out your systems and join us. So the objectives we have during this class or webinar, we will briefly discuss the purpose and focus of verification. Most of the class webinar will be spent reviewing steps and completing the verification and timeline for verification. But the main objectives will be to define verification, review verification steps in the timeline, practice verification steps and activities, and review frequently asked questions. So, we just talked about some of the objectives, but we also have an overview of verification that we will be talking about that you can use later on. But again, the purpose of verification is the confirmation of households' eligibility for reduced price or free benefits. Verification is a tool to promote integrity and deterrent against abuse. Persons responsible for verification are the verifying official. It is an employee responsible for the verification process. You guys do let us know who that person is when you're doing your program renewal. So that is always good for us as we have you on file. But that person will verify that all information provided on the original application is correct, including all sources of income. Remember, the verification person cannot be the same as your hearing official because the hearing official cannot reside over their own information, but it may be the same as the determining official. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about the process and having new employees or somebody else help you. We'll also talk about the confirming official is the employer responsible for checking each application selected for verification to ensure the original eligibility determinant is correct. It cannot be the same person who certified the original application, so that's the determining official. It can also not be the same as the hearing official. And the confirming official is not needed if the KSDE certification worksheet or another type of certification software is used. Households selected at random for verification must supply proof of gross income from all sources and/or must supply proof of assistance based on the case number listed on their application. The hearing official is the employer responsible for hearing appeals brought by households regarding verification results. The required annual verification of random sample of applications. Each sponsor must annually verify eligibility of children from a sample of household applications approved for free and reduced meal price benefits. Completion of the pre-verification worksheet will calculate the number and type of applications that must be randomly selected for verification. The required number of applications are selected randomly from the entire number pool of applicants. Keep in mind the verifying official notifies households of documentation required for verification. Income and household member information provided by the household is used to verify the initial eligibility determination for free or reduced price meals. Households verified are notified of the verification results, and eligibility status in your point of service system remains the same or is revised based upon your verification results. Verification for cause. Households with questionable information on their application may be verified for cause at any time during the school year. Applications verified for cause are in addition to the required verification sample. Such verification efforts cannot delay approval of the application. Once a household has been requested to provide documentation for cause, the sponsor must complete the verification process for that household. Households verified for cause before November 15th are included in the post-verification result screen and CanClaim. But again, they are considered to be additional to the random sample and are considered verified for cause. We will go through this information some more in the upcoming slides. So if you just heard all that I've said, we are going to break it down a little bit more now. So sponsors have an obligation to clarify or verify all questionable applications. A questionable application might include applications containing questionable information, sponsors' knowledge that a household is intentionally misreported its income by leaving some of the fields blank, and the assistance case number that is inconsistent with the format used by the assistance program by the state. You, the sponsor, have an obligation to follow up on all questionable or incomplete information when reviewing applications submitted for free or reduced meal limit verification to cause. Prior to certifying the students for benefits, the determining official should review the application for any discrepancies in the information provided. If a discrepancy is found, the determining official should seek clarification about the information provided in order to make a determination in a timely manner, or deny the application with an explanation that incomplete information was provided, or approve the application and verify for cause. Criteria used to verify for cause should be fair and free from discrimination. Sponsors should document the criteria used to verify applications for cause. Criteria used to verify for cause should include frequent submission updating of applications. It is recommended that the determining official and/or authorized representative consult with legal counsel in establishing the parameters for verification for cause for school district employees. Sponsors are also encouraged to contact KSDE for guidance regarding verification for cause for school district employees. So keep in mind, you do have an obligation to clarify all and verify all questionable applications, and you, the sponsor, have the obligation to follow up on questionable, incomplete information. So, and everybody should be treated fairly. We're going to look now at the verification timeline. Again, this should be something that you have to review, and it is available in Chapter 8 of Food Service Facts. But verification is a timely endeavor. Beginning anytime from July 1 to October 1st, you should be preparing for verification. We always say you should check your direct certification list as often as you need to, or if not as often as you need to, but very often, to ensure that students are matched and can be taken out of the verification pool if found on the direct certification list. And you want to maintain updated documentation of students approved for free and reduced price benefits. And it really is a good idea to flag any error-prone applications as you are determining your applications during the school year. Keep in mind, we will talk more about error-prone in the upcoming slides. Anytime after certification applications are started and prior to October 1, if you want to start early verification, which is optional, again, we'll talk more about this soon. The pre-verification worksheet and prior year's experience are used to determine and estimate the number of applications to verify, and you can begin notifying households that you've selected at random. And then October 1 and shortly after October 1, you must complete the pre-verification worksheet in CanClaim. And you will then select the number of applications listed on the post-verification report. So again, we'll talk more about it, but keep in mind, once you are finished with your pre-verification worksheet, which we will look at, you will find the number of households to verify under the post-verification report screen. On October 31, you will update your pre-verification worksheet in CanClaim with student numbers only. On November 15th, you should have all verification activities complete. You should be done. You should have all your information submitted and finished. But before December 15th, you must go into CanClaim and complete the post-verification results screen. If you guys are like me, you're going to be done on November 15th. I think you have plenty of time to wrap it up by December 15th, but go ahead and finish it so you do not forget. I think many of us have those aha moments as we go through the verification process. All right. So beginning July 1 and prior to October 1, We're going to talk about how to prepare verification. I know I told you we talk about each of the steps a little bit more in depth, but we do have best practices for verification counts that you can use as you're going to start the verification process. But you want to check the direct certification list often. Looks like Holly is putting up the best practices for verification counts, and a lot of it is what I'm going to talk about or I have talked about. So as you can kind of refer to that as you start your verification process and we go through the webinar today. But again, I can't say enough. Check your direct certification list frequently. Try to get those students on benefits who need to be on them and out of your verification pool when it comes time to do your random sampling. Again, the first step in the verification timeline is to prepare for verification. Good record keeping throughout the application certification process helps ensure that verification reports are completed accurately and in a timely manner. It is important to update your point of service accountability system as students are certified for free and reduced benefits. It is also important to update your POS accountability system when a student's benefit status changes. For example, when a student is approved by application for free benefits and later found on your direct certification list. Timely and accurate update of eligibility records or software ensures that students are receiving the benefits for which they qualify at the point of service. An accurate eligibility status record also simplifies the process of entering student counts and application counts into the pre-verification worksheet. To ensure accurate information is entered, it is also very important to flag or file error-prone applications. An application is considered error-prone when the total income is within a specified income margin. Error-prone margins are listed at the top of each income frequency column on the income eligibility guidelines. The KSDE Excel application and can claim will calculate if the application is error-prone for you. All sponsors must record the number of error-prone applications on the pre-verification worksheet, even if they are not required to select error-prone applications for verification. So you can also see I'm a cheerleader for the KSD Excel application because it does the math for you. The Excel application will help you with the error-prone, and you do not need a confirming official. So keep that in mind as we go on some more about the day. All right, so moving on to the next slide. You also have information that you can get your hands on about early start verification, which we're going to talk about now. And this is once you've certified your application, but you want to start the verification process before October 1. So you may begin once the application approval process for the current school year is underway and there are approved applications on file. Prior year's experience can be used to estimate the number of applications to verify. The actual number of applications verified must be the exact sample size number on the post-verification line and can claim on October 1st. But keep in mind that caution should be taken when estimating the number of applications to verify prior to the final calculation on October 1. The number of applications to verify stated on the post-verification results page, which is your sample size, is the exact number of applications that must be verified. The number of applications verified cannot exceed 3% of the total applications approved. Once a household has been notified, you must complete verification for that household. So even though you start early, you still have to have the exact number. And remember, any done over that are considered errors for cause. All right, when we talk about continuous sampling and follow-up, for some sponsors starting verification earlier than October 1, this may ease the administrative burden by distributing tasks and responsibilities over a longer period of time. SP Memo 42-2017 encourages the use of a rolling verification, particularly when a large number of applications are verified. With a rolling method, sponsors pull random samples of applications on a rolling basis, whether that be weekly or monthly, you can decide, rather than pull them all at the same time. This does help because you have information coming in segments and you're not bombarded with information all at once. However, some tell me it is harder to keep track of when things are due when they just don't have the same timeline for every family. So you can decide how often you want your sample to be. Sample at the same rate as usual, which would be 3% of the most recently approved applications for standard error-prone or alternate random sampling, or the 1.5% for alternate error-prone sampling. Each time sampling occurs, select sample from those applications approved since the previous sampling. Complete the sampling process on October 1. Notify households of results on a rolling or set time period. Sponsors may complete the verification process for each household as income documentation is provided and notify the household. Sponsors may also choose to save income documentation received and complete the verification process for all households during a specified time period. So now we have an example that we're going to use when we talk about continuous random sampling. So you can see it on the screen. In August, you had 1,500 applications that were approved. 3% is what you have to verify. So that would be 45 of those applications would randomly be selected for verification. You then notify 45 households about verification. In September, you have 2,000 new applications approved. 3% of the addition would be 60, and those new applications randomly selected for verification. So then at that time, you would notify the 60 households about verification. So instead of doing all 105 at one time, you were on a rolling scale, and you got 45 started before you added the next 60, which is why they say could help release the burden of your administrative responsibilities. And then continuous and early follow-up helps to increase response rate. Emails, texts, messages, phone calls are good ways to help in addition to the sample letters and may be helpful. All right, so then you want to complete the pre-verification worksheet on October 1. Under the Forms tab in CanClaim is where you will find it. Completion of this worksheet determines the sample pool from which applications are randomly selected for verification. CanClaim then calculates the sample size, example, the number of applications that must be verified. And this number is listed on the post-verification line under status. So keep that in mind. October 1, you complete the pre-verification worksheet, but you find your sample number under the post-verification results screen. All right, we're going to take a minute and we're going to look at what this is going to look like when you open your pre-verification worksheet. So you can see we have a sponsor pulled up onto the information. She's clicked the Forms tab, and now she's clicking the pre-verification worksheet. When you want to add information or change information, you must click on the pencil. If you only want to view information and do not make any changes, you should click on the eyeball. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to open it up like we're going to make changes, but we've already pre-filled it with some information. As you can see, at the very top, it will let you select your verification method. So you can select how you would like to do it, whether that be the alternate 1 random, the alternate 2 focus, or the standard, which is error prone. Those of you who must do error prone because you had a 20% non-response rate from the year before will not be able to select. The standard error prone button will already be clicked for you, and you should have no other options. So if you don't see any other options, don't worry. It's just telling you that this is how you must select from your pool of verified families. All right, so as you can see, we're in here now, and you can look through it. Line 1A is not subject to verification because they're on FA, which is food assistance. So you're going to count up all your kids. And this can actually be done on October 31, where you count up all your students in your district to have a heading type of FA and list them there. When you go to 1B, these are the other students in your district that are not subject to verification for things such as you found them on the direct cert list with a heading type of TAF foster, or maybe you received information from a qualified liaison or recruiter saying that they were migrant or homeless, or that they're eligible for Head Start or Even Start, or they might live in a residential center such as an RCCI, or non-applicants approved by the local official based on need. So those would again be the count of your students that are directly certified for other reasons of being FA. You would list them there. Then row 2, you're going to count up your categorically eligible students. These are the students that you have information on in application, but you did not put them on benefits because of income. You know, they checked that they were a foster child and maybe you didn't find them on the direct certification list. Same with a case number. They listed a case number that looked like it would be a valid case number in the state of Kansas, but you did not find them on the direct certification list. You would then count up the students on those applications that you consider categorically eligible and list them in column C. And then you would list the actual number of applications, the pieces of paper these kids are listed on, and list them in column D. Even though you have information that they do get free meals, you are not able to directly certify them, so they are at this time still in your verification pool. That's why it's always important to check the direct certification list as often as you can. Row 3 is you're going to count them now, your income eligibility students. Those students that you put on reduced or free price meals because they had a complete application, you added up their income, and the guideline chart told you that they are eligible for free or reduced. So in column A, you would list your reduced students, the number of those. Column B, you would list the number of applications those reduced students were listed on. Same as we go across for column C, except we're talking about free now. You would count up the number of free students who are income eligible in your district, and then column D, again, is the number of applications they are listed on for approval. Row 4, your free approved column totals will populate for you when you finish. And then we ask you to then, in row 5, list your error-prone applications, which we talked about. So for this example, you can see we had 20 applications we approved for reduced. 5 of those were error-prone, and the same for free. Below is where you list your confirming official if you have used one to certify your applications selected for verification. There's also a place where you can select that you used a software, and it's going to ask you what software you use. And that could be a software that you have approved on file, or it could be our KSDE Excel application. And then do not forget the number 9 to check the box when you're done that you certify to the best of your knowledge this is true, and hit save. If you have entered a software there, it will give you a message that we will have to go in and approve that it looks like a software that would be able to be used for a confirming official. So that is a good look at the pre-verification worksheet that you can be starting now. However, remember, October 1, it's a firm deadline to have your numbers in there that are current. All right. So, demonstration. We're going to talk about the pre-verification worksheet and how it does the math. So the eligibility manual describes the total number of applications certified for free reduced price benefits as your sample pool. The application numbers sponsors enter into the pre-verification worksheet in sections 2 and 3, which was the categorically eligible section, and the income eligible sections. That will be added to be your sample pool. The eligibility manual also describes the number of applications that must be verified as the sample size. The pre-verification worksheet does the math using the verification method sample selected or the one you were required to do, and it will automatically tabulate your sample size, which is the number of applications you must verify. So keep that in mind. The pre-verification worksheet tabulates the number of applications to verify based on the application numbers entered on October 1. And it tabulates the numbers and categories of students entered on October 31st for reports sent to FNS from KSDE. So now we have a Q&A. But since we're not teachers, we always give you the A with the Q. So you can thank us for that. So are students and applications in carryover status counted on October 1? And no, the October 1 numbers are for certified applications from the current school year only. The carryover students will not be counted if your carryover period ends after the October 1 verification start. By the October 31 student count, all students should be off the carryover status. So remember, they do not count for the current year. Okay, some more Q&A. What are the verification methods at the top of the pre-verification worksheet? We've talked about these a little bit, and you have now seen them when we looked at the pre-verification worksheet. But the verification methods are sampling methods used to determine what types of applications are selected for verification. These are the 3 acceptable methods of selecting applications for verification. They are located at the top of the pre-verification worksheet, which you've seen. The radio button will default to the sampling method used in the previous school year. However, if you are able to select other options, you, the sponsor, may select any of the 3 available options. The standard or error-prone verification sampling method might be the only option available to sponsors on the pre-verification worksheet, as I mentioned before. This occurs when the non-response rate from the previous school year's verification process was 20% or more. And keep in mind, in some of my small schools that only have to verify 2 or 3 families, just having one non-response rate easily pushes you past the 20% threshold. Again, a sponsor must use the error-prone verification sampling method if this is the only one available on the pre-verification worksheet. Sponsors may also choose to only verify error-prone applications by selecting the standard method when all 3 are available. So sometimes it is your choice, sometimes it is not. Alternate 1 or random verification sampling method requires the sponsor to randomly select the correct number of applications, which is 3% as shown on the post-verification worksheet, from the entire application pool. Alternate 2 or focused is the verification sampling method, which requires a sponsor to randomly select the correct number of applications, which is 1% as shown on the post-verification worksheet, from the error-prone application pool. The sponsor must additionally verify 0.5% or at least 1 application that is selected from the applications indicating case numbers in lieu of other income information. This information sampling method may be beneficial to larger sponsors as it significantly reduces the total number of applications that must be verified. For standard error-prone and alternate 2 focus methods, if there are not enough error-prone applications in your sample pool to meet the required number of applications to verify, you, the sponsor, may select randomly from the remaining pool of applications until you have the number of applications that you must verify selected and ready to go. Okay. Now we're going to move to October 31, because if you've noticed, there's columns that have to be done in October 1 and some that have to be done October 31. And a lot of you just tell me, you know what, I fill out the whole thing October 1st and then I go back and only complete the columns, update the columns that had to be selected on October 31st. That's fine also. I mean, you have some 2 ways you can do that. But just remember, on October 31st, student numbers are updated in the pre-verification worksheet. So this is row 1A, not subject to verification because they're on food assistance. Row 1B, not subject to verification, all others. Row 2, categorically eligible, and row 3, income eligibility, reduced priced and free priced approved students. But I can't stress this enough, because application numbers are not entered on October 31. Again, you can, but you don't have to. This update does not affect your verification size. The student numbers are entered only for reports sent to USDA. So that's why we are updating student numbers only, because the sample size is based on number of applications. So we do not want you changing that number on the 31st. All right, so to complete verification activities, you're going to select applications to match the number and type of sampling indicated on the post-verification results line. So again, we do have some information that we can share with you about this on a handout and activities. The applications are selected at random that match the number and type of application indicated on the post-verification results page. Each application selected is numbered for later reporting. Practices for ensuring random selection can include selection interval process or requesting a coworker randomly select a number to be used as an interval, or simply putting applications on a table and randomly drawing them. It is best practice to document the procedure used for random selection of applications and maintain this documentation with other documents. If the post-verification results page indicates a specified number of error-prone applications must be reviewed, applications are randomly selected from the folder of applications that meet the error-prone criteria. If not enough error-prone applications again were approved, all error-prone applications would be verified, and additional non-error-prone applications would be randomly selected until you meet the total required verification sample pool. If you have questions regarding the number and type of applications to verify, please let your consultant know, and we can help you. Okay, complete verification activities, but we're going to go back to the direct certification list. It is so important that you check this very often to ensure that you can, again, not move these students from the verification pool to not being verified if they are indeed eligible for free meals due to direct certification. In Kansas, we update the direct certification list every night. It is best practice for sponsors to check the names of students on applications selected for verification with the direct certification list prior to notifying a household they have been selected for verification. If a student or students listed on an application selected for verification is found on the direct certification list, the eligibility status is changed to free and extended to all other students residing in the household. The household is then notified using the letter to household about direct certification. This letter you have already done, and it's uploaded on the sponsor summary checklist of your Can Claim page. The verification of this application is considered complete because you were able to directly verify it using your direct certification list. The household is included in the post-verification results page in Can Claim and checked as directly certified. Applications containing a FDPAR number are directly verified using direct verification request, which is Form 8H, direct verification request, and Form 8I, verification of FDPIR benefits. The directly verified box is checked on the post-verification results page only if the student household is found on the direct certification list after the household application was randomly selected for verification, or the FDPIR numbers were directly verified from the information provided by Form 8I. We will discuss the completion of the post-verification results page later in this class. So in other words, you only click that directly certified box on the results page if you found them on the DC list or received information that their FDPIR number is correct. All right, so now we're going to look at the bottom of the actual application where your confirming official should sign. So you can see it, it's highlighted there in pink. Keep in mind, this only needs to be done for applications you have selected to be part of your verification pool if you have not used an approved software or the KSDE Excel application to make your determination. So, very important to remember. And the eligibility manual also states that prior to any other verification activity, a determining official other than the official who made the eligibility determination must review each application selected for verification and ensure the initial determination was accurate. So again, those you pull, if you haven't used software, have somebody check your math and sign it there, okay? All right, so we're going to talk about the confirmation results. If applications were not confirmed prior to approval, they are confirmed during the verification prior to notifying the households they have been selected. During the confirmation process, if an error is found, the sponsor must respond as listed on the sponsor response column on the slide. If an error found during confirmation results in the eligibility status of a household changing from free to reduced price to paid, there is no longer any reason to continue with verification process, since this family should not be on benefits and should be on paid anyway. We would stop verification there and let them know that their benefits are changing. But we hope you all get the first line, that the initial eligibility was correct, and you can move on with verification. Again, if the eligibility status changed from reduced to free, you, the sponsor, will make free benefits available immediately, notify the household that they have an increased benefit level, and go ahead and verify the application. If the eligibility status changes from free to reduced, you, the sponsor, does not change the benefit status at this time. You've finished verification before you decide if the family will be changing. And if the eligibility status is from free or reduced to paid, like we talked about, you send them the benefit decrease letter. Don't verify the application and select a similar application to complete the review process on, so you have your correct number for your sample pool. All right, so we've kind of brought you through some of the timelines and the completing of things in CanClaim, and now you have your sample selected, but now you're going to notify the households that they have been selected. Excuse me. After an application selected for verification has been certified and confirmed, the household is notified of the selection for verification. And for those of you who have the handout and activity packets downloaded, you can follow along. This is number 4. So you can see this is a condensed version of what we're talking about. So it is a very good thing to have by your side during the verification season. So we've now selected and we've certified and confirmed, and the household is notified that they are going to be verified. The sponsor must notify the household by mail or email based upon the contact information that you do know. Unless the sponsor begins the verification process shortly after applications are certified during the start of the school year, households should be notified after October 1. So this is if you're not going to do the early verification. Households need adequate time to provide the required income or case number documentation. However, households should be notified well before your November 15th deadline when verification activities must be completed. This will help you and them because it will ensure you have leeway to collect more information or remind them if they forget to submit information before the deadline. So written verification notice. Sponsors must have a system in place to provide verification notices in the primary language of the parent or guardian, provide oral assistance if the parent or guardian has difficulty understanding your written request, and sponsors are encouraged to provide households with as many options for submitting documentation as possible, including mail, hand delivery, or electronic submission. SP Memo 43-2016 states state agencies and LEAs are expected to have a system in place to provide notices to each household in the parent or guardian's primary language. Follow up with households that do not respond to the initial verification request, and provide oral assistance if the parent or guardian has difficulty understanding the written request. USDA translations of prototype verification materials are available on the FNS website, and LEAs are encouraged to provide households with as many options for submitting documentation as possible. This should include mail, hand delivery to the school, or an electronic submission of some sort. The written verification notice. This is the confirm your eligibility for free and reduced price meals letter. This is another letter that sponsors had to complete prior to being approved for in their program renewal times, and it is available on your sponsor summary checklist in CanClaim. So you confirm this letter will include the types of acceptable income information that may be provided to verify their eligibility, the date which the information must be provided, an explanation of the option to provide proof of benefits from assistance programs in lieu of income documentation, an explanation of time frame between 1 month prior to the application and date verification documentation is due. the name of the sponsor official who can help answer their questions, a toll-free number, and warning that the information must be provided by a specified date, and failure to do so will result in a termination of benefits. The Verification Toolkit, which is a USDA toolkit that could be handy for you, is available to assist sponsors with increasing verification response rate. FNS has developed the toolkit, which contains a collection of resources that sponsors can use in their efforts to improve verification response rates and overall efficiency of the process. These resources were developed by FNS, but the feature input from the state and local officials from around the country. They were informed by 2 years of formal studies conducted by FNS and the Office of Evaluation Science and Social Behavior Sciences team, as well as through a public contest from informal conversations with program operators. Some of the things that you will find as a resource are strategies to improve response rates in the verification process, navigating the verification process, a diagram for households, a guide to conducting verification before October 1st, redesign verification letters, flyer to households, and they can also submit verification documents with their smartphone, and sources of income for school meal eligibility. So if you guys would like to take a look at that, you may. But again, we have a lot of good stuff also to help you with verification. All right, so now we're going to talk about the review of income provided by the household. So hopefully your verification is going great. You've got your sample pool, you let them all know they are being verified, and before your deadline, they submitted all their income documentation, right? Okay, so the best practice is to use Form 8K. You are encouraged as the sponsors to use the KSDE Form 8K, which is found in Chapter 8 of Food Service Facts, to document communication with the household and to document verification income and household size. The verification worksheet helps organize the process and keeps an audit trail of how verification was completed. Verify eligibility status promptly after documentation is received. As a consultant that comes out to review your information, I love it when you use Form 8K because it kind of summarizes the timeline and everything that happened from start to finish. And it really does keep me on track when looking through your information, which I would assume it keeps you all on track while completing the verification process. So I think it is a great tool. All right, so we're going to move on to some more Q&A. And this was new a few years ago, but what if only one pay stub is submitted? If a pay stub is representative of what the household normally receives and income frequency can be determined, one pay stub is now sufficient. The eligibility manual states that households may provide pay stubs with income from employment. If a weekly pay stub is representative of what the household normally receives each week, one pay stub is sufficient. And a lot of times you can tell from the one pay stub by also looking at the year to date to see if it looks like the income listed for the timeline, if it's weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly, what have you, that it looks like it would be consistent with the year to date also. All right, so what if only one pay stub is submitted and there are 2 incomes listed on the household application? So you're thinking, gosh, I need to have 2 sources of income verified. So you want to contact the household to supply income documentation for all sources of income. If they listed income on the application, it must be verified. In general, anything considered as income for the initial application process is also considered as income for verification purposes, and documentation for such income is required. Documentation for loss of income, such as a job loss, must also be supplied. And you'll hear that a lot. So-and-so lost their job. So have documentation on file to show us that that is what happened. All right, so moving on to more Q&A. What if the household submits a pay stub that includes overtime? If the household submits a pay stub that includes overtime, the verifying official should work with the household to determine if the overtime in the period being verified is representative of income or is a one-time or sporadic. If the overtime is a one-time or sporadic source of income, income should be calculated based on regular income, and you would not include the overtime. The eligibility manual states if the household submits a pay stub that includes overtime, the determining official should work with the household to determine whether the overtime for the month being verified is representative of overtime received in other months. If the overtime is a one-time or sporadic source of income, income should be calculated on the regular monthly income without including the overtime. Okay. So what if the application being verified or verified for cause indicates no income? The sponsor must request an explanation of how living expenses are met. The sponsor may request additional written documentation or collateral contacts. Reminders of income exclusions would be payments received from a foster care agency. Student financial assistance, such as grants and scholarships, should be used to pay for school. Loans and student loans, and infrequent earnings. The eligibility manual states if a household is selected for verification or the application is being verified for cause and the application indicates zero income, the LEA must request an explanation of how living expenses are met. Oh, okay. Sorry, I heard some feedback there. So anyway, the LEA must request an explanation of how living expenses are met and may request additional written documentation or collateral contacts. For example, the collateral contact may be asked to document the duration and type of assistance that is being provided to the household. So that is what happens. I get calls on that all the time, that they have no income. How do they live on nothing? Well, this is if they're in the verification pool, how you could help them to prove their income. All right, so what if the household member does not receive a paycheck stub from their employer? If the household member is paid by their employer in cash or a business personal check and does not receive a paycheck stub, the employer could be used as a collateral contact. The household would obtain a letter from the employer stating gross wages paid and how often they are paid. The employer could complete KSDE Form 8G confirmation of earnings. Again, I like this form because it really spells out and it has the employer sign it, and you can tell their income from that form, from the collateral contact. What if the household has income that varies seasonally or is dependent upon commissions? The household may submit a paycheck, stub, or stubs for any point in time during the month prior to the application for school meal benefits and the date the household is requested to provide their income documentation to you. Households could select the paycheck stubs that best reflect their normal income. The eligibility manual states that notice that documentation of income of receipt or assistance may be provided from any point of time between the month prior to the application being completed and the time the household is required to provide income documentation for verification. The Federal Register, Volume 73, number 244, states that the documentation time frame. Households selected and notified of their selection for verification must provide documentation of income. The documentation must include the source, amount, and frequency of all the income and can be for any point of time, again, between the month prior to the meal application being submitted and the time that verification is, you've told them to submit their documentation. And if the prior year's income provides an accurate reflection of the household's current annual rate of income, the prior year may be used as a basis for the projected annual rate of income. But keep in mind, that's only if the prior year is indicative to what their current income is at this time. LEAs are further encouraged to inform households that they should provide documentation for the time frame for which they applied for school benefits if income has since increased. All right, more Q&A. How should income tax returns be read for self-employment when another household member has income for wage? So lines 12, 13, 14, 17, and 18, and this is also stated on the back of the application and is listed on Form 1040 Schedule 1, should be used to verify income from self-employment. All other sources of income, including wages, should be submitted for verification through paycheck stubs. So keep in mind, this can only be used for self-employment. The eligibility manual states in the section from Income, Wages, and Self-Employment, page 25, for a household with income from wages and self-employment, each amount must be listed separately. When there is a business loss, income from wages should not be reduced by the amount of the business loss. If the income from self-employment is negative, again, you would use a 0. So families must keep their self-employment wage and their non-self-employment wage separately and verify it separately. All right, what if a household to be verified has a change in household member number with children living with parents now in separate households? Because we do know a lot of things can happen between the time a family applies for benefits till the time they're notified they're in your verification sample pool. So the household could provide income documentation from the month the application was originally submitted as one household, as they were when they submitted the application, or the household could provide income documentation as 2 separate households from the current month or month prior to the verification request, along with the current list of household members that are now in each household. It is the household's responsibility to explain the composition of their new households and provide income documentation. Okay, sources for written evidence assistance. There are ways that you can get information to verify families. One is the assistance program, an official letter or notice of eligibility indicating the student or any household member is receiving assistance benefits at that time for which the period benefits are granted. However, Kansas sponsors should not contact the Division of Children and Families to directly verify student if they are receiving assistance. That information is already provided to you on the direct certification list. Non-student household members may have case numbers to receive food assistance. The students in that household may not be matched on the direct certification list. The household members receiving the benefits may provide you with a copy of the official letter or the notice of eligibility from the state agency or the department that issued the document. A letter from a social service agency must include the name of the person or persons receiving benefits and the time for which the benefits are granted. So again, you may get this information, but as a sponsor, you cannot contact them. You have other ways to help them. Other source categorical eligibility, which will be an official letter, a notice, or a list from the appropriate state agency, social service agency, or program office, or coordinator, or court, or the homeless runaway liaison, MVP liaison, state or local welfare agency, or foster care. Whatever you receive, though, the verifying official should examine the document provided to ensure that the child for whom the application is made part of the household currently participating in assistance program or is a foster child. A household that does not have satisfactory documentation may request a signed dated letter from the agency providing the benefits verifying that the child is part of a household currently receiving benefits. A household unable to provide proof of a valid case number may submit documentation of income at that time. So again, they haven't been able to get their information that they said they could, then you would just tell them they could submit documentation about their income. You would then, as the sponsor, verify income using Form 8K. But hopefully they can get their information or you can find them on the DC list. But if not, you can always have them do income. All right. More on food assistance. Review food assistance documentation provided by the household. Ensure the child is part of the household participating in the assistance program. Households enabled to provide proof of a valid case number may provide documentation of income. So we're just driving that point home. All right. What should happen if a family approved for free benefits based upon a case number and randomly selected for verification cannot produce proof of a valid case number and they are not on the direct certification list? So if this happens, you're going to notify the household that they are going to have a decrease in benefits, and the household may apply for benefits at any time during the school year using household size and income. The household must supply written evidence of current household income at that time. So they wouldn't be able just to submit an application. They would also have to submit an application and supply evidence of their income at that time to get back on benefits. We talked some in the earlier slides about using collateral contacts. A collateral contact is a person outside of the household who is knowledgeable about the household circumstances and can give a confirmation of household's income participation in the assistance program or other source categorical eligible program sources. Collateral contacts could include an employer, a social service agency, a migrant worker agency, or a religious or civic organization. The verifying official should request a collateral contact only in cases when the household has not been able to provide written evidence. Excuse me. When the verifying official must give the household the opportunity to designate the collateral contact. However, the verifying official may select a collateral contact if the household fails to designate one or designates one who is unacceptable to the verifying official. In either case, no contact may be made without first notifying the household and obtaining permission. All collateral contacts may be written or oral and must be documented, dated, and initialed. The sponsor will examine any written information provided by the collateral contact or evaluate any oral information. If the collateral contact is unwilling or unable to provide the requested information, the sponsor must contact the household to complete the verification process. And then according to the slide, persons outside the household who is knowledgeable about household circumstances, they can confirm income using Form 8G, confirmation of earnings, or confirm participation in an assistance program, or confirm other source categorically eligibility. But the verifying official requests a collateral contact from the household only when the household has not been able to provide written evidence. So you do have to let the household know that you do want to request a collateral contact. You just can't take that upon yourself to call people and get the information. All right, so complete verification activities. You're now going to notify the household about the verification results. And this is in number 6 of the overview that Holly has had up on the screen a few times, so that will also help you. But you must notify households of the verification results, and verification is sent when the verification is complete when the appropriate letter is sent. So again, you can see on the screen she has now that if you have no change in benefits, they will remain the same. You send letter 80. If their benefits are going to increase, then you let them know using letter 8N, change them immediately, and if their benefits are going to decrease and get worse, you send a letter to households about the benefit decrease, and you change them in your point of service accountability 10 days later, because that does give them time to appeal, request a hearing, whatever they need to do. Okay. All right. Now the fabulous Holly is going to take over.
Thank you, Angela. Can you guys all hear me okay? All right, I'm going to take over now that Angela has walked us all through the initial steps of verification. So you've selected your households, you've notified them of verification, and now you've received all their income documentation and processed that. Now you're going to notify them of their verification results, like Angela said. So let's talk specifically about that letter to household about decrease in benefits. So this letter you guys uploaded during program renewal to CanClaim. It's on your checklist tab, and if you use that version, your consultant has approved it, and it includes everything it has to include. So it's got that change in benefits. The letter has to include the actual change in benefits, the reason for the change, an explanation of the 10-day appeal period for assurance of continuous benefits, instructions on how to appeal the change, and then information on how to reapply. So like I said, you're going to hit all those bullets if you use the form that's uploaded in CanClaim. And it has been approved by your consultant as well. So some more Q&As. Can a household that has completed verification reapply during the year? And this is a question we get a lot. And a household can reapply at any time during the year if financial or household number circumstances change. But a household who completed the verification process and benefits were reduced or terminated based upon income and household number supplied by the household may submit a new application if their household circumstances change, along with documentation of the income or assistance. So I always say, think of it as the household is in verification for the entire school year. So if you send them the decrease in benefits letter, and then they send you a new application, they've got to supply that documentation of income or assistance with that new application. So in verification for the entire school year. What happens if a household disagrees with verification results and requests a hearing? And if a household disagrees with that decrease in benefits, they've got all the information about a hearing on that letter you sent them, and they can request a fair hearing by appealing to the district's hearing official. And when the household appeals a reduction in benefits within the 10 calendar day advance notice, you as the sponsor must continue to provide the benefits for which the student was originally approved. So if they request that hearing, you'll keep them at free or reduced or whatever their original benefit status was. And then the decision of the hearing official must be based upon the income documentation provided by the household and the current income eligibility guidelines. And then following the hearing, the household would be notified of the decision in writing using Form 8P, letter to household following hearing. So you're going through, you're contacting households that have sent you income documentation, but what are you going to do if you just haven't heard from them? So you sent them a letter at the beginning of October and they haven't called you, you don't have any income documentation from them, you've gotten no emails. You as a sponsor are required to contact non-responding households at least once. So you need to make at least one follow-up attempt to contact the household when they don't adequately respond to the request for verification. And this follow-up could be in writing, so you could send them another letter, you could send them an email, or you could call them by phone. But it's crucial that you document this contact. So document that you have tried to contact the household. And the best place to do that is with Form 8K, that one that Angela talked about earlier. You can document every time you tried to call them, every time you emailed them on that form. So when you're contacting non-responding households, like I said, you have to make at least one follow-up attempt when they do not respond to the request for verification. If they submit insufficient or obsolete written evidence, so just like that example Angela talked about where they just sent income documentation for one of the incomes, you would need to follow up and get documentation for that second income source. If they don't designate a collateral contact, or if the collateral contact is unable or unwilling to provide the requested evidence, that is another reason you would need to contact the household. And when you're following up with the household, you have to inform them that failure to provide adequate written evidence or to designate an adequate collateral contact will result in termination of benefits, and then you want to attempt to obtain the missing written evidence or collateral contact information. You'll want to contact the household to complete the verification process if the collateral contact is unwilling or unable to provide the requested information. And then, like I said, just make sure you document the date and method of contact on Form 8K verification worksheet. And if the household does not respond or fails to provide adequate documentation after you've done that required follow-up, and if applicable, additional follow-ups, so you sent them the initial letter for verification, you did your one required follow-up phone call or email or letter, and then say you even called them again and you just can't get a hold of them. This is when you will send the letter to household about benefit decrease, And then verification is considered complete for the household on the date that that adverse action notice is sent. So say we decide on November 13th that we've done our additional follow-up, we can't get a hold of this household, we send the letter on November 13th, and then verification is considered complete on November 13th. So how would a sponsor complete the verification process if the household does not respond? And like we said, you're going to send that letter to household about benefit decrease. Benefits will be changed to paid after a 10-day calendar period from the date the letter was mailed. So if we sent our letter on November 13th, we would change benefits to paid on November 23rd. And then in your results page, your post-verification results page, you'll enter change to paid, no response, and then make sure you've documented all of those attempted contacts on Form 8K, and then the copy of the letter to household about benefit decrease is kept with your verification documentation. So I'd say just put that in a folder with your Form 8K and any documentation of all your attempts to contact the household. So what happens if a non-responding household provides the documents required after November 15th when verification is complete? So using that same example, we've notified them on November 13th, and then December 1st rolls around and they decide they're going to send us income documentation. So what we would do with that income documentation is we would review it and certify it just like we would with any other verification. If the eligibility status changes, the student status would be changed to the approved eligibility in the point of service system. So by this time we would have changed them to paid. We're going to use that income documentation, determine their eligibility, and then change the status in the system. And then we'll notify them of the verification results. The only difference here is that you are not going to update your post-verification results page. And that's because it's after November 15th. So after November 15th, we're not making any changes in the post-verification results page because based on our initial verification, they were changed to paid because we didn't get a response. So we'll leave that the same. So can a household that failed to complete verification reapply during the year? And a household with terminated benefits because of failure to complete verification or verification for cause can reapply during the school year. But just like we talked about earlier, think of it as them being in verification for the entire school year. So if they submit an application, they also need to submit that income documentation or proof of participation in an assistance program at the time of reapplication. So if you verified them initially, they didn't respond, but then they submit another application, they've got to submit documentation with that application. And we've emphasized this throughout the webinar, but you'll need to complete your verification activities before November 15th. And this includes all interactions with households, the review of all documentation required for verification. All of these activities have to be completed before November 15th. And that's why we say start verification on October 1st, notify those households, give them a deadline for returning information so that you've got plenty of time to contact them, get any questions answered, all before that deadline of November 15th. So what happens if you're unable to complete verification activities by November 15th? Sponsors unable to complete verification activities by the November 15th deadline must request an extension in writing to the Child Nutrition and Wellness Director at KSDE. And then sponsors will receive a response in writing to this extension request, and then you'll keep that documentation on file. And then verification, including the results reporting, not completed by December 15th, requires KSDE to submit a written extension request to USDA. So I highly emphasize, if it looks like you're not going to complete verification by November 15th, email Cheryl Johnson in our office, email your consultant, let someone within KSDE know so that we can get that written request submitted before November 15th. Because if it seems that you're not going to complete verification by December 15th, then we've got to make a request to USDA. So keep your eyes out on that November 15th deadline, and if it looks like you won't meet it, let your consultant or someone know. So then the final step is to complete the post-verification results page in CanClaim by December 15th. So like Angela said, verification's due on November 15th, and then you've got a month to enter your results in the post-verification results page in CanClaim. And I would say do that as soon as you're done so that you don't forget to enter your results in there. And we will actually practice the post-verification results page in an activity, and then we're also going to go ahead and demonstrate it right now. So let me get CanClaim pulled up, and it probably kicked me out, but we can walk through again how to get to verification in here. So we'll click on SNP, Program Year 2020, and since you guys just have access to one sponsor, you will pop up automatically, but we're going to go to the Forms tab, and you'll see the post-verification page right here. So Angela talked through entering the pre-verification worksheet earlier, and once we saved that, this little message here popped up. So it said error 0 out of 2. And that's telling us we need to verify 2 applications. So we randomly selected our 2 error-prone applications. We've notified them. We got documentation from them. Now it's November 15th or after that, and we are going to enter our results. So again, you always want to click the pencil if you're going to edit. The little eyeball is just view only mode, so it won't save your changes. So we'll click edit, and you're going to hit, well, you'll see here, here's another message, 2 error-prone applications must be verified. So we've done that, and we'll hit add. Here's where you'll put an application number. If you number your applications, you'll put that number here. Head of household, this is going to be whoever signed the application or submitted it to you guys. Their name will go here. The number of students on the application, so that's the actual number of students that attend your school or your district that are on the application. You're going to put that here. Their original eligibility, whether it was reduced price, free by categorically eligible, or free by household size or income. And then the benefits that you verified as of November 15th. So either no change, change to paid, and they responded, change to reduced, change to free, or change to paid, no response. So you'll see there's 2 choices for change to paid. Either you verified their documentation and they were actually changed to paid, or you couldn't get a hold of them, there was no response. And then you'll put the date verification was completed. And so that is the date that you sent that letter, the date that you verified their income documentation. This is not the date that you're actually entering them into CanClaim. So you'll look at your Form 8K to complete this, and it'll have all this documentation for you to complete for each household. And then verified for cause, just like Angela talked about, if you chose to verify them in addition to your random sample, then you'll click that checkbox here. And then if they were directly verified, so that means you found them on the direct certification list, then you will click that checkbox under row 8. But remember, that's only if they were directly verified. So otherwise, don't check that. Check that box. And sometimes people will think they need to click either 7 or 8. You can leave those blank and it won't give you any errors. So you'll only check those if it was verified for cause or directly verified. And then you'll hit save. And we'll actually enter some of that with one of our activities coming up. All right. And so then we also want to remind you that you need to keep all of this documentation for your administrative reviews. So we always say a best practice is to keep one file for verification. And in this file, you would keep all your documentation for each of the applications that you verified. So this would include the original application, if you use the KSDE certification worksheet, notification of the eligibility letter, the confirmation, the letter you sent to confirm their eligibility for free and reduced price meals, the completed Form 8K verification worksheet with all of your verification documentation, and then all documents received from the household, whether that be copies of paycheck stubs or verification documentation of assistance, and then the appropriate letter that you sent regarding the results of their verification. So keep that all in a file so you've got it all together for each household that you verified. So these next slides just provide some suggestions if households are needing some guidance on how to submit written evidence of their income. And I believe there was a question earlier in the chat box about alimony and assistance, how to document that. So this will cover those questions. And I would use this as a reference, if a household says, I'm really not sure how to document my Social Security or unemployment or child support, these are great places to start. So first is written evidence of Social Security or supplemental security income benefits. So households have to provide an award letter. A bank statement is not adequate written evidence of this income. So they have to submit that award letter. And they can get a benefit verification letter online through a My Social Security account. And then they can print or save that official letter, and it'll include proof of their benefit amount and type and their age. And so you'll see this slide has a link to that website where they can log in or create an account to get that official letter to submit with their verification documentation. For written evidence of unemployment insurance payments, individuals receiving unemployment are issued an unemployment debit card instead of a check. And in Kansas, after a person has filed a claim for unemployment, they receive an unemployment insurance monetary determination letter. And this is documentation regarding the unemployment insurance for which the person may be eligible. And a person receiving unemployment insurance payments may also obtain payment information online at this web address here, or they can contact the Kansas Unemployment Contact Center. And it's important that the individual who receives these benefits has to be the one to contact them, because it's against the law for the Kansas Department of Labor to give information about unemployment claims to anyone except the claim recipient. So while it might seem easier to, get in there or call the Kansas Department of Labor yourself and get that information, the actual household, the individual receiving that benefit has to be the one to contact them. And then online, you'll be able to get information on the last 3 weeks of unemployment claimed, the date and amount of the benefit payment, and then the amount of benefits remaining. So for written evidence of child support payments, a household can obtain this documentation from the Kansas Payment Center at the website on this slide. So if they are not sure, they don't have documentation, written evidence of their child support, then you can direct them to this website and they should be able to obtain that documentation. So what if a household has sporadic income? How would they provide written evidence of this sporadic income? And a household with seasonal workers or workers paid on commission may have income that fluctuates from month to month. And households can submit written evidence that best reflects their regular monthly income. So this could either be pay stubs from any point in time between the month prior to the application and the deadline to provide documentation, or it could be an annual income from the previous year's tax return. So if they've got sporadic income, they can use one of those two options at the bottom of the slide to provide that written evidence of their income. So military income and exclusions is another tricky one when it comes to verification, determining what should be included as income and what should be excluded. And this chart gives a good summary of, on the left, income and benefits that are included, and on the right, benefits that are excluded as income. So a quick summary, you'll see in the top left, for non-deployed service members, you're going to include any benefits paid directly to the service member for food, clothing allowance, and housing allowances if they're living off base. And then for deployed service members, it'll be the income made available to the service member or their household. And then on the right, you're going to exclude as income any military compensation as listed on the slide. And then for deployed service members, you're going to exclude the deployment extension incentive pay and any combat pay. I would highly recommend, if you do run into this situation during verification, you can contact your consultant, of course, and then you can always look in the USDA eligibility manual. It has a really good section on income and income exclusions, lots of details on what would be included as income and what would be excluded as income. Okay, so now we're going to go into an activity where we're actually using the pre-verification worksheet. So let me get back into CanClaim. And we will click, again, like before, we're going to click the pencil button to get into the pre-verification worksheet. And I'm going to have you guys pretend that we didn't include all those numbers before. So pretend that all of these numbers are not here. So we've got a clean slate. It is October 1st. We are entering our pre-verification numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read these statements off, and then I'll just talk through where I'm going to put them on the pre-verification worksheet. So you'll see we got in here and we're not able to select any of the other verification methods. So we're going to go with standard or error prone. That's our only option. And we pulled from our point of service system or from our benefit issuance records the following information. So under free students, we have a report that's telling us there's 200 students directly certified through food assistance on the direct cert list. So that's saying within our district, we had 200 students matched for food assistance on the DC list. So those 200 students are going to go in row 1A, we'll put 200. And again, 1A is only those who are certified through food assistance. So while you can find lots of other students on the DC list, maybe TAF or foster child, this row is only food assistance. So we've got our 200 here. Next one is 50 students were directly certified through temporary assistance for families on the direct cert list. So like I said, TAF is going to go in row 1B. So 50 will go here. We then had 10 students directly certified through foster, and we found them on the direct cert list. So again, just like TAF, foster is going to go in row 1B, and we had 10, so I'm going to update that to 60. Next one is that we had 5 students directly certified, and they were listed twice on the direct cert list. One says food assistance and one says foster. So that's where it gets tricky. Are we going to list them under food assistance in row 1A? Or are we going to list them under foster row 1B? Remember that food assistance always trumps foster or TAF. So if they're listed as food assistance, we're going to list them in 1B. So FA is trumping foster, so we'll put 205 there. And then we had 5 students directly certified as homeless by the district homeless liaison. And I always say, look at these descriptions over here because it tells you exactly where to put people. So we're not real sure where to put homeless, but if you read this here, certified migrant or homeless, okay, we're going to put them here, update that to 65. And then we had 5 students on 2 applications with food assistance case numbers that were not found on the direct cert list. So it's got a food assistance case number listed. We looked on the direct cert list and we could not find the students on the direct certification list. Because we couldn't find them on the DC list, we're not going to put them up here. These are those food assistants that we did find on the DC list. Instead, they're categorically eligible. So we're going to put them down in row 2 as, let's see, 5 students on 2 applications. So in the students column, I put 5, applications column, I put 2. And then we also had 2 students on 1 application with the foster box checked, not found on the DC list. So again, we had that application, foster box was checked. If that's checked and the application is complete, has an adult household signature, we can certify them for free, but it's always a best practice to look on the DC list and see if we can find them. So we did that. We couldn't find the student. So we're going to update this to 7 and this to 3 because there were 2 fosters on 1 application. And then for our income eligible applications, we had under free, we had 500 students certified for free meals based on 300 applications. So 500 students, put that in this column, 300 applications, put that in column D. And then under reduced price, we've got 200 students certified for reduced price and 150 applications. So 200 were receiving reduced and on 150 applications. And as Angela talked about earlier, really on October 1st, you only have to complete the applications columns, but I always say it's easiest, I think, to go through and complete everything, and then, on October 31st, you will update those numbers and update only your student numbers. So while you're only required to do the application columns on October 1st, I would go ahead and do applications and students. And then finally, we're going to go to error prone. We have 5 error prone applications certified for free and 10 certified for reduced. So out of those 150 reduced applications, we had 10 error prone, 300 free applications, we had 5 error prone. And then last step, we're going to go through and complete our confirming official information. So we as a district are saying we use the KSDE Excel application. So no, a confirming official does not review and sign applications. And our certification software is the KSDE Excel app. We'll check mark. We certify this information is true and accurate, and then we'll hit save. And it is saying it has been successfully saved, so we'll exit. So now a whole month has passed, and now it is October 31st. And like I said, we need to update those student numbers. And it's really important that you do not update application counts, because if you update these numbers it's going to give you a different result here on the post verification page. So you noticed before it said error 0 out of 2. Because we updated our application counts, it's now telling us 0 out of 14. So if you update those on October 31st, it's going to tell you you need to verify a different number of applications. And you actually don't, because you did everything correctly on October 1st. So now we're just going to update student numbers. So again, it's October 31st. We've pulled information from our point of service system or a benefit issuance record, and it is telling us we now have 210 students directly certified through food assistance. So again, these guys are certified for food assistance, and we found them on the DC list, so we'll put 210. We had 51 students directly certified through TAF that we found on the DC list. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter 51 here, and we'll keep adding to that. We had 6 students directly certified through foster, and we found them on the DC list. So we've got 57. We had 5 students directly certified listed twice on the DC list as FA and foster. So again, food assistance is going to trump, and we found them on the DC list. So that will be updated to 215. And then we had 5 students directly certified as homeless by the district homeless liaison. So again, homeless goes in row 1B. And we're going to update that to 62. And then we had 5 students on 2 applications with food assistance case numbers not found on the DC list. So again, we checked the DC list. These applications had case numbers, but we couldn't find them on the DC list, so they're going to go under row 2, categorical eligible. And again, we're only updating student numbers. So although it's telling us we have 5 students on 2 applications, we're only going to put a 5 here. We're not going to update this column. And then we had 2 students on 1 application with the foster box checked, but we could not find them on the DC list. So again, that's going to go here, and we'll update that to 7. And again, not updating column D. So then for our free applications, we had 525 free applications, or free students certified for free meals based on 350 applications. So although it has changed, our application number has changed, we're not going to update it, just updating students. And then same thing for reduced, we had 202 students certified for reduced price meals based on 151 applications. So we're not going to change our error prone. We're not going to change our application numbers. Those are going to stay the same. We just updated our student counts. And then we'll hit save. And we are done with the pre-verification worksheet for the year. So our next activities are, we're going to go through some actual verification examples. So let me pull up those examples. Okay, so we've got 4 different households that we have been required to verify, we'll say. And first we have the Anderson household. So it is telling us that the Anderson household was certified on September 5th for free benefits. So we received their initial application and approved them for free on September 5th. And we are now verifying them. So in response to the confirm your eligibility for free and reduced price meals, that letter that we sent, the family sent 4 paycheck stubs. And these were sent on October 10th. And so we've got 4 different paycheck stubs, 2 for Kathy Anderson and 2 for Daniel Anderson. So now we need to complete the verification worksheet for the household, and then what we'll find is that they have a benefit decrease, so we'll complete that as well. So what I've done is I have just completed these Form 8K, and we are going to walk through, if I can find it, here we are, walk through how to complete it. So this is what Form 8K looks like. We've talked about it a lot. And first thing is we're going to enter the date. So they sent us these paycheck stubs on October 10th, and we are going ahead and we're going to verify them now. So it is October 10th, and the head of household's name is Kathy Anderson. And the reason I put Kathy instead of Daniel is because she's the one who actually submitted the application and signed it. So really either of them could go there, but since she signed the application, I'm going to put Kathy here. And there were 2 students on the application, Adam and Brenda. And how I knew this is I looked at the children part of the application and then looked to see if student was actually checked, and then they listed whichever site the students attended. So looking at the original application to complete this. So now they didn't have a food assistance number listed, didn't have a FIDPER number listed, didn't have the foster box checked, so we don't need to enter any of that information. But it was an income application, so we've got to do this middle section. So as we saw on the previous handout, we got 4 paycheck stubs, so we're going to enter those here. On the first row from Kathy Anderson, we had income from Acme, and they were both for $1,100. So the first one was $1,100, and the second consecutive pay stub was also $1,100. So I added $1,100 plus $1,100 and got $2,200, and then I divided that by 2 to get an average of $1,100. That one was a pretty easy math one, but I documented those steps. And the paycheck stubs were submitted on 9/7 and 10/5. So I would say her income frequency is monthly because she got one on 9/7 at the beginning of September and then one on 10/5 beginning of October. So I circled M for monthly. And the conversion factor, because their 2 incomes are not in the same frequency, we're going to convert them to annual. And how did I figure out this conversion factor? Well, obviously there's 12 months in a year, so I'm multiplying by 12. But some of them are a little more difficult. You don't know off the top of your head. So there's a key right up here where you can convert it. And so when I multiplied by 12, I got $13,200 for an annual income. So now we've got Daniel's paycheck stubs, and he sent 2 both from Topco, and the first one was for $850, the second one was for $875. So I added those together and got $1,725 divided by 2, and that gave me an average gross pay of $862. So the dates on the paycheck stubs were 9/7 and 9/21. So looking at a calendar, it looks like he's getting paid every 2 weeks. So I circled E2 for every 2. If I look up here at my key, it says I'm going to multiply by 26. So multiplying by 26, I got 22,412. So those were the only paycheck stubs we received, and that is all the income that was documented on their original application. So we're good, we've got it all. Adding those 2 together, I get 35,612. And the income frequency is yearly because we converted them both to annual. There's 4 individuals living in the household, and I got that from the original application. And from the original application, I know that they were originally certified as free. But now let's pull up the income eligibility guidelines and remember 4 and 35,612. So if we go down here to a household size of 4 and we use the annual column, 35,612 exceeds 33,475. So they are not eligible for free. But let's see if they're eligible for reduced. Let's go over to annual and reduced. 35,612 exceeds 33,475. So they are not eligible for free. Let's see if they're eligible for reduced. 35,612 exceeds 33,475. So they are not eligible for free. Let's see if they're eligible for reduced. 35,612 exceeds 33,475. So they are not eligible for free. Let's go over to annual and reduced. And 35,612 is definitely under 47,638. So they are eligible for reduced. So in our results section, we'll put revised eligibility status reduced. And we completed verification on October 10th. We're going to send our letter to the household on October 10th, notify our school personnel that they are changing on October 10th. But then because they're getting a reduction in benefits, they need 10 calendar days from the date that we send that letter. So they'll actually be changed on 10/20. And here's a little key here. It's telling you a reduction of benefits must be made after 10 calendar days advance notice. So now that we've determined all of that, we're going to make our letter to send to the household. And again, it's October 10th. We're going to address it to Kathy Anderson since she completed that initial application. We're going to inform her that eligibility will change on October 20th because that is 10 calendar days from the date of this letter. And inform her that her eligibility is changing from free to reduced. And then we're going to list our district's reduced price charges for lunch, breakfast, and after-school snack if you have it. And then we just need to explain why her eligibility is changing. And it is because of verification. And then finally, if you're using your template from Can Claim from the checklist tab, it's going to have this information already completed, but you'll want to have your determining official or verifying official's contact information and then the hearing official's contact information. So that completes household 1. Let's go into household 2. So we've got the Carter household, and they were certified on September 5th for free benefits. And we received their initial application and approved them for free on September 5th. And they were selected for verification. We sent them the letter to confirm their eligibility, and they sent us court documents with child support amount of $200 per month. And then they also sent 2 paycheck stubs for Alice Carter, dated 9/7 and 9/21. So it is October 21st, and we are verifying their income. So we're going to do the same thing and complete the verification worksheet. So like I said, it is October 21st, and the head of household's name is Alice Carter, and she is the one who signed the application, so that's why we're putting her as the head of household. When we look at the original application, there's 2 students listed, Debbie Carter and Ellen Carter. And there were other students listed on the initial application, but because they did not have that student box checked and they didn't have a school listed, we know that they're not students within our district. So we're only listing the students here. They didn't have a food assistance or TAF number, no FIDPER number, no foster child case number. So we're just going down to this income section. So like we said, they had child support documentation for $200 a month. So what we're going to list is, I just put a little description here, child support, gross pay was $200. There's not a consecutive one, but that's fine. We know it's monthly. Total gross pay is obviously $200 and average is $200. It is a monthly payment, so we circled M. Our conversion factor is 12. So when we multiply 200 by 12, we get 2,400. And then we had 2 paycheck stubs for Alice Carter, and they were from Discount Store of America. So I just put DSA here. The first paycheck was for $950, and the second stub was $980. And the total gross pay, adding these 2 values together, we get $1,930, and then dividing by 2, we get $965. And the dates on her paychecks were 9/7 and 9/21. And I would say that is every 2 weeks. So just like the last one, we're going to multiply by 26. And that gives us $25,090. So those were the only paycheck stubs we needed, only income on the application. So our total verified income is $27,490, and that is yearly because we converted both of them. So if we look at that initial application, we know there are 5 in the household. They were originally certified for free. And if we pull up, remember 5, 27,490, let's pull up the income eligibility guidelines. 5 in the household, our annual is 27,490, and that is less than 39,000, so they are still eligible for free. So we select benefits remain the same, and then the letter we're going to send them is letter 8O, no change in benefits. And we're going to go ahead and send that immediately on the 21st. Okay, let's go to household 3. We've got the Johnson household. So the Johnson household was certified for free benefits based upon a case number from the mother, Anna Johnson. And on 10/7, prior to notifying the household, the verifying official checked the direct cert list and found Edward Johnson on the list as food assistance. And so Edward Johnson is one of the household members that was listed on the application. So we haven't notified them yet, but just as Angela talked about, we are checking the DC list to make sure no one is on the DC list or that we can't directly certify them. And so we did that, and we found Edward Johnson on the food DC list listed as food assistance. So some questions. Is the household now required to provide proof that the case number is valid? The answer is no, because we've found them on the direct cert list. That is our official verification that they do qualify for food assistance, so we do not need proof that that case number is valid. What form would we send to the family? We're going to send Form 7A, which is the letter to household about direct certification. And this is another one of those forms that you have on your Can Claim Checklist tab that you can pull up, download, and fill out and send to the household. And that's required because you did find them on the DC list, so you've got to notify them using that letter to household about direct certification. And then when is verification considered complete? Verification would be considered complete when you send that Form 7A out. So if we send it on October 7th, then verification is complete on October 7th. So now we're going to complete our verification worksheet for this household. So like we said, it's October 7th, and our head of household is Anna Johnson because she is the one who submitted the application with the case number. And the students on the application were Brittany, Calvin, Dee, and Edward. And our food assistance number that was listed on the application, we've listed it here, and you can see that it is valid because it starts with a 0. It needs to start with a 0, a 1, or a 2, and it's 8 digits long. So that's why we approved them for free based upon categorical eligibility. We couldn't find them on the DC list at that time. But now, on October 7th, we've found Edward Johnson, who is one of the students, on the DC list, so they have been directly verified. So their original eligibility status was free. Their benefits are going to remain the same because they've been directly verified. Verification is complete on October 7th. We sent the letter to them on October 7th, and we're notifying them using Form 7A. And then we also need to make sure it's updated in the point of service system. So although they're going to stay free, we need to change them from free based upon categorical eligibility to free based upon direct certification. So that is why we're going to notify school personnel, just to make sure it gets corrected in the point of service system. So that one was pretty easy. And then we've got our last household, the Klein household. And they submitted 2 applications from August to September with different income amounts. So basically they submitted one application, it was approved for reduced, and then they submitted a new application, with different income amounts, and it was approved for free. So the question is, can this sponsor verify the final application for cause? And the answer is yes, but you should document the criteria that you're using to verify for cause. And for example, in this situation, it would be frequent submission or updating of applications. So since they submitted 2 applications pretty close in time, August and September, with different income amounts, we can go ahead and verify them for cause. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We send them the letter, confirm your eligibility, on September 27th and tell them they have a deadline date of October 18th. And October 18th rolls around, we haven't heard from them yet. So what is now required of the verifying official? As we talked about earlier, you have to make one follow-up attempt with the household, at least one follow-up attempt. So that can be by phone, email, letter, any of those methods work. You just want to make sure you document it. So on October 21st, our verifying official attempts to contact the Klein family by phone, and they don't answer the phone. So then the verifying official sends a second letter and an email to the family on October 23rd. And October 29th rolls around, the verifying official documented that the household has not responded. So this verifying official went above and beyond. They contacted the household by phone, they didn't answer, they sent a second letter, they sent an email, they still haven't heard from the household. So we are going to go ahead and deem that this is a non-response because we've done our due diligence and really tried to contact them. So for this verification worksheet, our date is September 27th. And our head of household is Robert Klein. And we've got 3 students on the application, Tracy, Victoria, and Sasha. And we're going to go, we haven't gotten any documentation from them, so we're going to go all the way to the bottom and complete this section. So original eligibility status was free, but our results of verification, we're going to revise their eligibility status and change them to paid. And I would recommend just putting a note on here, no response. That's why they were changed to paid, because we got no response. And then you definitely want to include the dates and methods of follow-up contact. So on October 21st, we tried to call them, we didn't get an answer. October 23rd, we sent a second letter and email and didn't get a response. And you can, like we said, we like to see, you know, Form 8K is your documentation of verification. So if you've got sticky notes or notes here, anything to show that you did definitely try to contact the household. So verification will be completed on October 29th. We send the letter to the household on October 29th. We're going to notify school personnel that they will be changed. We'll notify them on October 29th. And then 10 days later, on November 8th, is when the benefit will be reduced. So again, you have to give them 10 calendar days advance notice. So then we've got to send that benefit decrease letter to them. So the date is October 29th. We've got it addressed to Robert Klein since he submitted the application. And we're informing him that eligibility will change to paid in 10 days from the date of this letter, November 8th. And so we're saying it'll change from free to paid. And if you would like to reapply for benefits, you need to submit paycheck stubs and documentation of child income. So their original application had income for adult household members, so we need paycheck stubs. And then it had some child income listed. So we're going to need documentation of that child income as well. And the reason is because of verification of eligibility. And then again, you'll list your determining official's info and hearing official. So those were the 4 households we had to complete verification for. And now we are going to go into CanClaim and enter that post-verification results page. So we are done with verification. We got it all done by November 15th. Now, before December 15th rolls around, we need to get this information entered. So we'll click the Edit button again, and you can ignore the 14 error-prone applications. We'll pretend it actually says 4, and we're going to hit Add. And so our first application was for Kathy Anderson, and she had 2 students on her application, and they were originally free based on household size and income. And if you remember, they were changed to reduced. And we completed their verification on October 10th. So we are done entering that one. They weren't verified for cause. They weren't directly verified. We just determined based on income that they were free originally, but they've been changed to reduced. So we'll hit Save. And then we need to add another one. Well, maybe. Oh, entry cannot be in the future. So we'll put today's date as the completion date and hit Save. Okay, so now we are going to add a second household. And our second one was Alice Carter. And she had 2 students on her application. And she was originally free, I believe. And her eligibility did not change. Our verification completion date was October 21st, but since it will give us an error because October 21st hasn't happened yet, we're going to put today's date. And she wasn't verified for cause. She wasn't directly verified. So we are done entering that application. And then our next one is Anna Johnson. She had 4 household members, was originally free based upon categorical eligibility. They did not change. Verification completed on October 7th. And they were the ones that were directly verified. So remember, we found one of the children on the DC list, so we'll hit directly verified and save. And then our last application was the Klein household. They had 3 students. They are originally determined as free based on household size. And remember, they didn't respond, so it's changed to paid, no response. And they were finished on October 29th. And this household, remember, was verified for cause. So originally we had to certify 3 applications. This one is in addition to that required sample size of 3. So we'll go ahead and click Verify for Cause and hit Save. And we are done with our post-verification results. So if we had entered the pre-verification worksheet correctly, it would say this was approved because we only had to complete 3. But because we had such big numbers in our pre-verification worksheet, it is telling us we need to verify 14. So we are done with verification before November 15th. We entered everything before December 15th, so we are ready to roll. So we just want to update you guys on a verification validation service that'll be coming soon, and we just want to emphasize to watch the monthly updates for this information. And to summarize, verification of eligibility for Child Nutrition Program benefits must be completed annually by program sponsors, and by confirming and verifying a sample household receiving reduced price or free meals, program integrity is maintained. If you have any questions throughout verification, just know you're always welcome to contact your consultant or our Topeka office if you can't get a hold of your consultant. We're happy to help you walk through it because I know it's hard to remember when you only do it once a year. Here is our contact number for the main office, and then our website as well. Food Service Facts is good guidance as you complete